every single camera in the place was working. I'm saying we've got footage and you're getting it. And then you can make up your own mind.
So one of the most stunning news revelations that's come out in the last 24 hours is Kash Patel on the Joe Rogan Experience saying not only does cell video footage exist from Epstein's cell at the time in which he killed himself, right, which many Americans do not believe, but also that the FBI is going to release that footage to the populace so that they can make their own minds. I think he's omitting a very key point of information here. So let's clarify, let's watch, and let's react. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
I've said it. Dan Bongino said it. We've reviewed all the information, and the American public is going to get as much as we can release. He killed himself. Do you think, let's play out the logical conclusion of this. Do you think that myself, Bongino, and others would participate in hiding information about Epstein's grotesque activities? Or do you think we would also participate in not prosecuting people we had evidence to prosecute people on? But the problem is there's been like 15 years of people coming in and creating fictions about this that doesn't exist. Where's the videotape of an Epstein Island of X, Y, and Z committing these frauds? Why haven't you given it to us? Do you really think I wouldn't give that to you if it existed? I'm working my ass off along with the leadership at the Bureau and DOJ to get you what we're allowed to give you. And you're going to get the video of the cell, and you're going to see for yourself. And we will never be able to convince everyone.
Okay.
All right, so first of all, this is a little bit disingenuous in that the history is that Kash Patel actually thought there was skepticism in regard to the official narrative regarding Epstein's murder. He said clearly, though, at the beginning of this that Epstein killed himself. But actually, again, he was skeptical of that in an interview. You can check this. It's documented with Stu Peters in 2022, where he said a lot of the circumstances don't line up to be a suicide in this case. He's clearly changed his tune since he's been the CIA or the FBI director. Also, he gets on this kind of kick about like, what would I release? If I had it, I would release it to you. But no, I don't think if you had videotapes of the sexual exploitation of children that those would be released. And virtually no one of sense expects them to. What we expect is that to be documented and any of the perpetrators involved in these crimes get brought to justice and get charged with the crimes they deserve.
Let's get into that. So what did you think before you got in office? Did you think that Epstein was murdered?
No.
No suspicion at all of it?
But I have a different background, right?
Right.
So I was a public defender back in the day. I used to spend a lot of time in jails and a lot of time in segregated housing units, SHUs as we call them, right? And so, and I've known people that have committed suicide in these cells. And I know how you get in, how you get out, who works the system. And so the way, based on public information at the time, that he ended up, the pictures and him hanging himself, I was like, man, that guy killed himself. There's just no way that you could have run an op and had people go into that cell and not have any video of it and not have any people come out and say, hey, yeah, I saw that guy. He shouldn't have been there, the guard or this guy. There's just no access points into places like this in the detention center he was in, which I've been in.
So correct.
All right, so again, back in that Stu Peters interview, he was skeptical of the official narrative that Epstein killed himself. He pointed to circumstances related to, the failure of surveillance cameras, which, he might go against in this interview. He talked about the absence of guards that were supposed to be monitoring, the timing of his death given his high profile at that time. So it's not true, as he said, that he was never skeptical of this. That's one thing we know. It's documented. It can't be denied. So if he's changed his mind, fair enough. Some people question that, maybe rightly so, but it was not the case that he was never skeptical of this official narrative. He clearly was.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but what I was told, what I'd read, was that the guards were not paying attention or were sleeping.
Well,
right?
And in short order, you'll see it.
Is that correct?
Well, it's hard to surmise that from a video, right?
Right.
Where they and look, do guards doze off on the night shift? Yeah. But no one can get in to the cell. And if they had gotten in to the cell, you would see it.
But we were told that the cameras were down.
Well, I don't know who said that.
But that was in the news.
We're giving you all the footage we have.
So why wasn't that released like immediately? Why did this speculation escalate?
I think you'd have to ask whoever the attorney general back then was, Bill Barr.
Did you ever see? Do you remember that HBO autopsy show? Dr. Michael Baden. He's a famous forensic
I don't think I've seen
scientist. So he's a pathologist, and he reviewed the case, and it was his determination that it was a homicide because of the way his neck was broken. And what he said was it was indicative of a ligature strangulation. And it was because of the positioning on the neck where the marks were, that it wasn't indicative of someone hanging by their weight, which had been higher on the chin. And there's a specific break of the bones and the vertebrae that's consistent with someone who is just strangled to death.
I haven't seen it. I'll definitely take a look at it because that's part of my job.
You haven't seen that?
The report on
Yeah.
that? No, I haven't looked at that.
Did you see any? Was there any other autopsy done other than the official one?
Not to my knowledge, but if there was, you'll get it. And that's what we're doing.
See if you can find that Dr. Michael Baden thing.
Yeah. No,
Did you remember that show, the HBO show?
No.
Pretty cool show.
Yeah.
So this guy, Dr. Michael Baden, he had a long career of catching murderers, exhuming bodies, finding trace amounts of poisons, different kinds of things. And it was a crazy show, like all these wild ways.
Well, I love watching shows, and I spend a lot of time on planes. So.
Yeah, it was an old show. It was a
Okay.
show like from the early 2000s, I believe. But this guy was like, this very well-respected forensic scientist who would analyze these bodies, and it was his determination that he was murdered.
Yeah.
So, there's also other things that don't exactly line up. There were 2 different nooses that were found supposedly in Epstein's cell. You can see photographs of this if you look at the scene, which really is, in many people's estimations, a crime scene itself. And you can see 2, I think they were orange colored nooses, and it's not clear which one he used or what the official narrative has him using in the official narrative. But here's the big revelation is Kash Patel is saying that video exists in the cell and you're going to get it. But that is actually irrelevant if the video that exists that he's going to give to the masses doesn't show the event in question that everyone's questioning, that Epstein killed himself. If he just reveals footage from the cell that happened at different parts of that day or different parts of that night, including the night in which this event happened, it's not going to quell any suspicions about the official narrative. It's not going to lead us to a new kind of truth. Kash Patel can say, hey, we gave you everything we have. But that's not relevant whatsoever if it's released and it doesn't show the suicide.
And my job, going back to the core of what I've been doing since I studied Russiagate, was to get, and is to get everybody the information.
When did you get here? Epstein's autopsy points to homicide. Pathologist hired by brother claims. New York City medical examiner strongly disputed the claim that the evidence from the autopsy suggested strangulation. So let's go to by the way, this is the New York Times, and they never lie. The private pathologist Dr. Michael Baden said to the morning TV show Fox and Friends, Mr. Epstein experienced a number of injuries, among them a broken bone in his neck, that are extremely unusual in suicidal hangings and could occur much more commonly in homicidal strangulation. I think the evidence points to homicide rather than suicide, said Dr. Baden, who observed the autopsy done by city officials. Dr. Baden, a former New York City medical examiner and a Fox News contributor, said, I have not seen in 50 years where that occurred in suicidal hanging case. Findings by Dr. Baden were strongly disputed by the city's chief medical examiner, Dr. Barbara Sampson, who previously ruled that Mr. Epstein's death on August 10th in the Metropolitan Correctional Center was a suicide. I stand firmly behind our determination of the cause and manner of death in this case, Dr. Sampson said in the interview on Wednesday. She added, in general, fractures of the hyoid bone and cartilage can be seen in suicides and homicides. The hyoid bone is near the Adam's apple. Dr. Sampson also dismissed Dr. Baden's contention that the circumstances around Mr. Epstein's death suggested other people may have been involved. She said her office had done a complete investigation, taking into consideration information gathered by law enforcement in making the determination.
So this is a perfect example of going back to my public defender and prosecutor days. Mm-hmm. This is what we call a war of experts. You can always find someone to come in and say the opposite.
Right.
And I used to do it all the time. I mean, I represented some of the worst humans that you can possibly imagine. on earth, literally. The guys that were trafficking children from Mexico into America. And you could put up a professional expert to say, and this is what's going to go on forever. And my job is not the forever. My job is to get you absolutely everything that we can give you.
All right, but you came into office under a guise of transparency, that you were part of a new apparatus in the intelligence services that would bring transparency to this case, to divulge the Epstein files. So what's your explanation for why the hyoid bone broke? And you can say, you know, he doesn't owe that to us. He owes us an investigation if criminal activity transpired, and we can charge the culprits. But I think he does, because transparency was the big crux of the Trump campaign platform and the Trump rhetoric and Kash Patel's rhetoric leading up to this, when he clearly was seeking the directorship of the FBI. So what's your explanation for that, Kash? And I don't think that Rogan knew about Kash's previous skepticism toward, you know, this official narrative. But these are some pretty good questions that I think Kash is mostly deflecting. He's right about a war on experts, for sure. That does happen, but it's not exactly relevant to what's the explanation then for the hyoid bone break. Can it break sometimes due to the hanging that did occur? Kash could have access to the information that would give him a sense of being able to answer that question, but he didn't answer that question.
And that's what we're going to do.
When did you become aware of this video that showed that no one had gone in and out of the cell?
Recently.
So why was it recent, though? I mean, if this death was, how long ago was this death? 2 years? 2019?
2019.
Oh, really? Why time flies. So 6 years.
Well, again, that's part of what I'm going to try to answer for you.
Jeffrey Epstein jail CCTV erased by technical errors.
This was widely reported at the time, too, by many publications that it was erased. So whether it was or not, I'm not saying that this could be false, but this was widely reported in the mainstream media.
Whoopsies.
Yeah.
But you see how anybody on the outside, I mean, this is like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
For something. Can you pull that article up so we can read what it says, Jamie? U.S. prosecutor said the jail mistakenly saved footage from the wrong cell. Sorry. Epstein, a convicted sex offender, first tried to kill himself in July last year.
So some reports did say that it was erased during because of technical errors, and some said that it was because it fed in video that it wasn't expected to get, like from a different cell, like he's reading here. Those two might not be mutually exclusive depending on how you look at the story and frame it. I guess it's kind of in a de facto erasure if you don't have the video itself, but this was widely reported.
Hanged himself in jail.
Hang on.
Yep.
Reread that line.
That he first tried to kill himself in July of last year. Yeah.
How much of the American public do you think knows that?
I didn't know that until right now.
There you go.
Maybe I heard it and forgot. Did you ever hear it, Jamie?
Well, that's why he was on Suicide Watch, I think.
Oh, okay.
This was widely reported, but it doesn't answer why, he might have committed suicide prior to his arrest. Like, he was in many circumstances where he would have had any ability to kill himself the way he preferred. So it doesn't actually explain what most people are getting after here, just the fact that he did it before, even if it was certain that he indeed did try to do this before.
So a guy
hanged himself in jail in August while serving trial on federal sex trafficking charge. He pleaded not guilty to abusing dozens of girls, some as young as 14. Yeah. Soon after Epstein's death in August, two of the CCTV cameras outside his cell had malfunctioned and were being examined by the FBI. Found semi-conscious in his prison cell with injuries on his neck. On 25 of July, after this incident, he's placed on suicide watch.
I'm not saying every single camera in the place was working. I'm saying we've got footage and you're getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can make up your own mind.
All right, so the fact that he's saying that we're getting the footage, I'm glad about that, but it's not going to be relevant because he's already implying in that statement that it's not going to be what answers the questions, because he said, and the theories can continue on about that after we get you this footage. Well, but the theories wouldn't continue on if you get us footage of him committing suicide. They're not going to get us that. They're going to get us cell footage, if anything, at times in which he didn't commit suicide, which don't answer the questions of the people that truly want the truth in this. And they want the truth in a lot of other things, too. It's not just whether or not he killed himself. There's obvious, important circumstances surrounding the Epstein story that dissidents especially want answered. Number one, did he belong to or work for any of the intelligence services, including the CIA or the Mossad or MI6 or any other number of them that people have speculated? Are there tapes? The answer is yes, tapes exist. We know this. It's widely documented. You can go and see pictures of his safe in his island abode that have printed descriptions of what's on the tapes, and he was known to have names of prominent people on those tapes. Presumably, it was blackmail information, committing crimes, sex crimes. That is what we want to hear. So I don't think this is going to amount to anything. You're going to get cell footage that just shows a guy in the cell without him committing suicide, and the Americans want answers to this. But I do want to hear from what you guys think. Do you trust Kash Patel? Is he right? Did Epstein really kill himself? Or is there too many unanswered questions regarding this? And what could explain Kash Patel's switch in tone from before the election until now? Let me know in the comments below. Until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. I'll see you in the next one.